Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, marks and casuals, welcome to the very first episode of the Joking Jobber Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Joe, aka Jobber Joe, the guy who isn't putting anybody over except myself right here on this microphone. Coming to you live from Philadelphia, the city of extreme wrestling, cheesesteaks, and plenty of smart-ass fans like myself who love to boo and cheer regardless if we like you or not. This is the show where we mix wrestle talk with a little bit of humor, a little bit of fantasy booking, and a whole lot of love for the squared circle that we know as professional wrestling. Think of this as your weekly tag team partner in wrestling banter. You never know what you're going to get, but you can bet your ass it definitely won't be a squash match. So first things first, let me tell you a little bit about myself and why I'm rambling into this microphone. I became a wrestling fan thanks to a little match that hooked me forever. You may know it as Stone Cold Steve Austin versus the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, at WrestleMania 14 in Boston. That's the moment that got me hooked. You got Mike Tyson at ringside. You got Stone Cold Steve Austin becoming champion for the first time, and good old JR screaming, "Stone Cold! Stone Cold! Stone Cold!" The sound of the Attitude Era kicking off for real. I was just a kid just sitting there wide-eyed, not knowing what a work was. I just knew I was watching something historic in that very moment. And that was it. I was hooked for life. That was the match that hooked me. I was all in. From then on, I started taping Monday Night Raw every week on VHS, including one time I recorded over my sister's confirmation video. I was running up and down the street yelling, "Austin 316 says I just whooped your ass." And even getting in trouble at school every once in a while for telling my teachers to suck it without even knowing what it meant. I don't think any of us in the second grade class knew what it meant. But I can tell you this. One thing I did know, that it was the coolest thing ever. And here we are, many years later, I'm still obsessed with the wild world of professional wrestling. Sorry, I like to stumble a little bit. Now, why the Joking Jobber? Well, because I don't mind making fun of myself and or the business that we love. We'll break things down here and have laughs and keep it for real. Fast forward to today, and wrestling is still as wild as ever. On one side, you got WWE still doing its thing with all the title changes, the drama, and let's be honest, they're still pumping out more weekly television than any normal human should consume. On the other side, you got AEW. They're keeping the alternative spirit alive and giving us dream matches, insane promos, and sometimes, well, alright, maybe a little too many tournaments here or there. It feels like wrestling today, I don't know about you, it feels like a custody battle. WWE is like that parent with the mansion, the rules, and AEW is that cool parent with the tattoos, with the tattoo sleeves that let you stay up all night eating ice cream. And as fans, we're the kids just sneaking around between both houses, enjoying it all. This week alone, we've seen Dominic Mysterio win the AAA championship. And let's not forget the most important thing. You got to see me front row in this week's AEW Collision taping telling MJF to go fuck himself and fuck New York. And I gotta say, whether you lean AEW, WWE, Ring of Honor, TNA, or somewhere in between, this is one of the best times to be a fan. Okay, well, it's time for my first segment ever, and I hope you're still listening, because this is something I like to call Flashback Talk. And for my first episode, I want to flashback to one of the matches that blew my mind when I first saw it. Some of you may remember, but for those who haven't seen it, let me tell you. I'm going to bring it back to TLC at WrestleMania 17. You had the Hardy Boys, Edge and Christian, and those goddamn Dudley Boys. 3 legendary teams, 6 guys who decided that night that they were not just wrestlers. They were daredevils, stuntmen, and borderline maniacs. They were on a mission to steal the whole damn show. And god damn it, did they ever. Let me paint this picture for you. Those that may not have seen this match because you were too young, or even if you did see it, let me just remind you of the carnage of that spectacular performance by those 6 men that took place at WrestleMania. It was incredible. So listen to this. You got Jeff Hardy climbing ladders higher than OSHA would ever approve. You got Matt Hardy and Bubba Ray crashing through tables like goddamn bowling pins. Then you got the spot remembered around the world that's always replayed. You got Edge spearing Jeff Hardy out of midair while Jeff was dangling from the title belts. That moment right there, that shit still gives me goosebumps every time I see it. I remember thinking, this isn't human. These guys were redefining the tag team wrestling at that moment, and honestly, they set the bar so damn high that every ladder match since that match has been compared to that TLC. What made TLC so special wasn't just the big moves, it was the storytelling. It was the characters. You had the Hardys, the Daredevil brothers. You had the Damn Dudleys, table-loving brawlers, and Edge and Christian, cocky heels who would do anything to win. Each team played their role perfectly. And let's be real, without matches like that, do we even get tag teams like the Usos, the Young Bucks, maybe FTR doing the crazy stuff we see today? I don't think so. TLC was the turning point, and it still holds up over 20 years later. But, I don't know. Maybe you tell me what you think. Now let's fast forward to today. Let's talk about what's happening today in wrestling, especially in the past couple weeks. In WWE, you got the shocking return of AJ Lee in Chicago on a Monday Night Raw. Or a Friday Night SmackDown, I'm sorry. You have the Beast Brock Lesnar back in business coming for John Cena. And like I said earlier, you got Dominic Mysterio making moves, becoming Daddy Dom 2 belts. And the road to the next premium live event is heating up. And speaking of live events, obviously, you got the shocking but not so shocking news of the week. And that is WrestleMania 43 being held in Saudi Arabia. Now, am I thrilled with this news? Obviously not. I was hoping to actually attend WrestleMania 42 this year. Then they moved it back to Vegas for the 2nd year in a row. I was already drained from going to WrestleMania 41, which also took place in Vegas. With the amount of money I spent, not only the money I spent there, not only on the ticket prices, but just the cost to fly there. Then you need a hotel for X amount of days, and of course you have to go to World, which was awesome, by the way. I got to meet Stone Cold Steve Austin. I got to meet The Undertaker. But, you know, that being said, you couldn't get a meal for under $100 plus, or all the other activities that there is to do in Vegas, without the temptation where you have the casino at your hotel, and when you walk out of the hotel, you have another casino 20 feet from you in each direction for 5 miles. So yeah, I'm pretty annoyed WWE took their biggest show away from their core fans here in North America, making it almost impossible for us to attend if we want to. Forget about the travel. They're also raising the prices like crazy. But spoiler alert, I didn't want to go to Saudi Arabia anyway, especially after spending all the stupid amount of money I did in Vegas this year. A flight alone to Saudi Arabia is about $1,000. That doesn't include the price that TKO raised the prices of WrestleMania tickets, whatever they are by then. They're probably going to cost your unborn child. And the only good thing I see this for most fans on the East Coast is that it would be a 1 p.m. start time. The one thing about WWE right now is that they've mastered the art of big moments. Even if you don't love every weekly show or breaking news like WrestleMania 43, they know how to make every pay-per-view feel like it's must-see. WrestlePalooza alone this week has already got that must-see feel with the way the match card is shaping up. Meanwhile, over in AEW, things are just as wild. You have Jon Moxley and the Death Riders running rampant, while the surprise with the surprise debut of Daniel Garcia joining his side. You have Darby Allin putting people in body bags, dragging them with trucks. How crazy is that? AEW feels like controlled chaos sometimes. Emphasis on the chaos. And I'll give Tony Khan credit. He's always giving us surprises. But I swear, if Tony had a nickel for every time he had a surprise debut, he'd still be holding another press conference about CM Punk. That's the thing I love right now. Both companies are giving fans something different. All while WWE is the polished spectacle that Hollywood feel. AEW has the unpredictability, the grit, and anything can happen energy. For me, as a fan, it's fun to bounce between both of them. You can be critical, sure, but at the end of the day, we are spoiled. We've got two big promotions putting on shows every single week. That is a win for us. All right. So this next segment, it's going to be some hot takes, and hopefully I get some connection out of this one. So let's get into it. Because that's what a wrestling podcast. Because what's a wrestling podcast without a little controversy? Hot take number 1: Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns doesn't need the title anymore. In fact, I'd actually argue that the title needs Roman Reigns. He built himself into such a presence, such an attraction, that his name alone draws eyes. The belt is better off being elevated by somebody else at this point, while Roman Reigns can work on special field storylines. Now, hot take number 2, Orange Cassidy. Lazy kicks, hands in his pocket. All the time, he's secretly one of the most consistent main event level performers in AEW. Every big match he's in, he delivers. Doesn't matter if he's the comedy or serious. That guy has become must watch. And I'll throw in a bonus. I think we're on the verge of seeing women's wrestling get another big boom. Between WWE and AEW, Anna Jay smoking hot show, the talent is there. Audience is there. And it just needs that booking consistency. Mark my words. The next year or two is going to be huge for women's wrestling. Now here's the deal. I want this show to be interactive. If you agree, disagree, just want to yell at me through your keyboard, find me on socials. Hit me up in the comment section. I'm all over TikTok. Joking Jobber Podcast, TikTok. Find me on there. Let's argue wrestling like fans do best. But please, seriously, please, keep the steel chairs at home. Unless it's padded, autographed by Mick Foley, and you're handing it to me for my collection, don't do that. So what's next for the Joking Jobber Wrestling Podcast? Well, this is just the beginning, all right? On future episodes, I'll be doing deep dives into old school moments like ECW here in Philadelphia, old WWE memories, maybe WCW memories, some AEW stuff, even some indie wrestling stores. I'll break down pay-per-views, give predictions. Eventually, I'll bring on guests, so it's not just me sitting here talking to a void trying to entertain you all. I know, it's probably rough if you're still listening. You're probably asleep by now. But anyway, this podcast is meant to feel like sitting down with a buddy after a show, grabbing a drink, and saying, "Did you see that?" That's the vibe. That's the energy that I'm looking for. So do me a favor. Stick with me because the ride's just getting started. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for the very first episode of the Joking Jobber Wrestling Podcast. If you made it this far, thank you. Seriously. Starting something new is always nerve-wracking. You could tell that I stumble in my words a lot of times, but knowing there's a fellow wrestling fans out there turning in makes it all worth it. If you enjoyed this, do me a favor. Hit the follow button, subscribe, share it with your wrestling friends. The more this grows, the more fun stuff I'll be able to do and we'll be able to do together. Hopefully I can get a couple old ECW wrestlers, WWE wrestlers, or even indie wrestlers to come on and do an interview. And remember, in the squared circle of life, sometimes you're the champ, sometimes you're the jobber, me, but hey, at least if you're a jobber, you can be a joking one. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you on the next episode.